Boston Bruins' plan has just been revealed, and it is horrific. As the postseason press conference has come to an end, fans are livid at this team's management and handling of this press conference. We're going to be breaking down the big aspects of this, covering the entire thing here in this video. And over the next few videos, we're going to be breaking down specific parts, including what is going to be happening at the free agency, the draft, everything. But right now, we have to cover this ridiculous press conference that everybody is calling out. But very quickly, before we jump in this video, we're currently sitting at 6,667 subscribers. We're on the road to 7K with a very busy offseason. You won't want to miss your Boston Bruins news. I'll have it all right here for you as it comes out. So like I said, be sure to stick around for later today and over the next few days as more still comes out from this, but we have a lot to cover from this press conference. Starting off here, firstly, with the original opening statement from Charlie Jacobs. He says, "We owe fans a better team. We aim to deliver a better team. I share your disappointment and frankly embarrassment on how poorly things played out over the course of the season." Now, once we went over everybody here, everybody kind of had their introducing remarks. Charlie Jacobs had this to say. Cam Neely, once again, kind of continued off this. "Our fan base deserves better. They've supported us for 100 plus years, and this retooling gives us an opportunity to regroup, reset, and build back better." Now, the big thing here, the word retooling. We saw this as a thing we didn't really know what was going to be called, what it was going to be called, who they were kind of referring to when it came down to the trade deadline to this point in time with the Boston Bruins. They never specifically said a rebuild. Fans quoted that term when it did come down to trading Marchand, trading Carlo, trading Trent Frederick. Some guys have been on the team for a few years and, others much longer. And it really seemed to be in a different direction. But I've been saying this, I feel pretty confident about this as well, that the moves the Boston Bruins made were not just necessary, but certainly are going to help them put them here in the right direction and change this from a rebuild to a retool and make this something that hopefully we see next year much better. And I'm still a firm believer of that. I'll say it until I see it, that this Bruins team has a very big chance from free agency, from the draft, to be able to come into next season back to where they're supposed to be. And, maybe a bold take, so let me know in your comments below what you think about this, but I do think that it's a very good chance the Bruins are able to do this. But this press conference, had quite a few interesting quotes coming from it, including a lot from not just GM Don Sweeney, but also Cam Neely. Charlie Jacobs had some stuff to say, and they were very defending here in this press conference. The reports from this whole press conference and the questions asked were quite a bit about what the plan is going forward for the Boston Bruins, how they're going to make this work after a season which ultimately didn't play out the way that they wanted, fans wanted, the team wanted, but what's going to happen? What's going to change? Because we know the Boston Bruins organization has not been great at, building onto this team. Once they have it, they can run with it. They're good, but building up this team from the draft, from free agency. It's how last year's free agency wasn't the best, ultimately played a very important piece down to the stretch, though, and I think will be much better next season in Elias Lindholm and Nikita Zadorov. The draft has been something that the Bruins have never really struck gold on in quite some time, specifically in the Don Sweeney tenure. But that's a lot of questions asked about what is this plan going forward? How are the Bruins going to face this new challenge that they're going to have with a potential 4th, 5th, maybe 1st overall pick? Still have to wait for the lottery to see, but this is what Don Sweeney had to say about it. Our scoring potential needs to be addressed and improved. That's what he was asked about, what the team needs to change. Now, didn't specify whether that would be done in the draft or free agency, but we can get a good idea that it will be both. With that pick the Bruins are going to have, there's quite a few goal scorers. There's quite a few opportunities where they can go out here, get some other players to be able to build into this team now, but also the future. So that's something I think we're going to keep an eye on. But one thing that I don't have here in this video, which we will be touching on in one later on, either today, tomorrow, or whenever it is, I don't know the order of putting these videos out in yet, but we have so much to cover. They mentioned that they need to get the wings better. They need to lock down the wingers. Now, in my opinion, the wingers, certainly are going to be an aspect where they need to get back into. They said that Morgan Geekie, which will be another video once again, will be back with this team. They're working on a contract negotiation with him. However, the center is still not where the Bruins want it to be. The center position, going from 1 down to 4, they have quite a few, but they don't have that bona fide number 1 center that they were trying to get last year in Elias Lindholm. So the way that I see this quote here from Don Sweeney is talking about the potential scoring that needs to be addressed and improved. I also see this being the center, but kind of going off this as well, they were talking about the wingers here. So really not addressing too much that needs to be fixed. Of course, that was just everybody knew that this had to be fixed. The wingers and the scoring were going to have to get better in this offseason. But nothing really overall, pushed into one direction, which I think I kind of like from Don Sweeney, not revealing his hand too early and giving other teams the idea and the advanced knowledge of what is going down. But once again, we have more quotes here coming this time from Don Sweeney once again. His status, his contract moving forward within limbo when spoke about by Cam Neely. Don Sweeney's status with the Bruins moving forward is in limbo as he enters the final year of his contract with the team. Neely says that he hasn't made a decision on Sweeney beyond this upcoming season. So this is a very interesting thing to say. When the guy's sitting right next to you, when you're talking about this, I do think that the Bruins are going to be kind of moving forward with this season with Don Sweeney, Cam Neely. They're going to be running with the same organization pretty much here and going and seeing how this can translate. Now, I do think that Don Sweeney is on a bit of a short leash here. They obviously trust him by giving him this offseason, giving him the chance to, turn this around, which I think is certainly possible with the way that the Bruins trade deadline went, the way that they built this offseason to be prepared to make these picks, to be prepared to make these free agency signings. If they do it right, I completely trust Don Sweeney to stay here. I feel like that's something I really went back on a few weeks ago and a few months ago as Don Sweeney throughout the season really did not make any moves that helped this team out during the season. But after the trade deadline, fully acknowledging it and doing what, for the most part, he could in this short period of time, he regained my trust just a bit. And I want to know what you guys think in the comments below as well. Let me know right now. Do you trust Don Sweeney? Obviously, he's not the guy that I think all of us want, and I still think he needs to do better, but he's been given a great opportunity here in this offseason to do better. So I think Cam Neely saying this to him at this point, or not directly to him, but to the media, is a big point, kind of saying, we're giving you 1 year. You have this is your go now. This is your ball game. You fix this. You try and do it. We'll be here to help, but if we see you to be able to do this, we're going to have a contract for you coming up once again. But overall, this press conference had a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff that was a serious mess. The Bruins were very defending in this, or the Bruins, players that were here, the coaching staff, and CEO Charlie Jacobs. Everybody was a bit, defending here in this one. And want to pull up this. Cam Neely gets testy when asked about the Bruins drafting and development, says it's not as bad as everyone thinks. Now, Cam Neely, yes, it is. Let's be honest. It's pretty bad when it does come down to developing, when it comes down to drafting. You have guys like Fabian Lysell, like Georgi Merkelov, who've been down in the AHL for years, haven't given the opportunity, but have not been able to stay there. They haven't been great, which really shows that the development is a bit lacking in that front, and drafting has just been something the Bruins have been terrible at, but we have to take this into consideration as well, and I know that the drafting is not great, but when the Bruins have been so good over the past few years, they've always had late picks, so they did the right thing. I think the same thing that the Maple Leafs did with Easton Cowan, reach on someone that you're going to want to try and see if they develop. If it don't work, that sucks, but when you have 1 pick in 3 rounds, you have to go and get the guy you want and the guy that you trust. It may not work every time, but it's pretty good. But where the Bruins have had this over the past few seasons, and it's been repeating itself, is where things get a bit questionable for their drafting skill. So, rightfully so, they're questioning the knowledge and the, ability of the Bruins to be able to go out here in the draft, in free agency, and develop these guys. But, we're going to get a good look at here in this offseason where the Bruins have this, what right now is at least a 5th overall pick, and someone that you can't really miss on. So that will be a good idea on the development, and we have so much stuff that's going to be coming out over the next few days as well about the development internally in the NHL level, with Jeremy Swayman apparently having to earn his position next year. We're going to have a video on that as well. We're geeky, all of this stuff, but this press conference was a total mess, and I think that's a very good way to sum it up here. We're going to see in a minute, but Mike Grinnell put this on Twitter. I follow all the Bruins fans on Twitter. These people are pissed, and they have every right to be. A lot of finger-pointing by management, no accountability, big egos. This is bad. Now, of course, Mike Grinnell hasn't always had the best opinions, going back to last season saying that Don Sweeney wasn't answering his calls, which he was for the negotiation with Jeremy Swayman. So that's not great look on him, but, this is very right. And I feel like looking at X or Twitter, really anywhere that we see this Bruins news come out, the reaction by fans is exactly this. They're not happy. They're looking at a lot of excuses from this team, and you have to take accountability, and you have to be able to do that and admit your mistakes. But it seems like the Bruins organization here in this, Don Sweeney, Cam Neely, Charlie Jacobs, mainly Cam Neely, and Charlie Jacobs really seem to be pointing the finger elsewhere, and Don Sweeney was just doing his job there. That's what I had in my opinion, at least. Let me know what you think. But one final tweet here. I think this is the best way to sum it up from Bruins Network. This is why I want to put this in here. The main takeaway from today is Charlie Jacobs, Cam Neely, and Don Sweeney seem to be on different pages for handling conferences. Jacobs is shocked anyone questions prices, which goes to the ticket prices. We're going to have a video on that as well. Neely is wildly defensive, and Sweeney, while accountable at times, is repetitive and firm. Not great by the Bruins. And I think this is a very good way to explain this entire press conference. So I kind of had the bare bones of it here in this video. Now, let me know what you think about the broad kind of overlook of this. I will be doing more videos, as I mentioned, about this. We're probably going to have upwards of 5 or 6. So be sure to stick around, like I said, on the road to 7K. You won't want to miss what we have this offseason. So much news is coming out. But the Bruins organization is in a very interesting spot right now as we head towards a very busy offseason with free agency, with the draft, and with trying to retool this team to get back to the playoffs. So be sure to stick around. Let me know in the comments below what you thought about this press conference. Be sure to go watch it if you haven't. It's about an hour and a half long, hour long. Very interesting and honestly quite depressing watching from a Bruins fan standpoint, and a bit aggravating as well. So let me know what you think. But that's all I got in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. But I'm signing out. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.